So I'm actually given more free speech and more freedom and more rope to say what I want to say, which probably pisses more people off because they're like, you should be on our side because I'm fighting for you.
Right.
And I always tell my wife, like, you never do something for a person unless they ask you. So if you did it first, you did it for yourself, and just no one's ever taught you that.
Right.
So we have the entire Twitter saying, I'm doing this for black people, I'm doing this for gays. Well, I'm like, that's not how shit works. You're doing that for you, unless somebody came up to you and say, hey, look out for me.
Yeah.
Then you're working from a place of service.
That was what was interesting. I had a great conversation with an Uber driver in Dallas, this black woman, and she was raging against wokeism.
Hey.
And then she was raging against Candace Owens too. So she was kind of like going, she was just like, you know what black women need? They need money. Give us money. And I was laughing because I asked her, I said, you know, how can I help? Like how can I've never felt like the need to, it feels infantilizing to me because if I don't want like handouts, I would like I would prefer mentors and prefer advice and wisdom than a handout. And if somebody was like, hey, we're going to give you this. I saw something yesterday. It was like a Monopoly game, but it's women centered. And so the women get $240 when they go around and the men get 200.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I'm like, no, I want to compete with the men on that's equality is like competing equally, not getting like a $40 handout.
So to touch on your how do we know what's going on, I used to teach special ed. I used to have to like write IEPs like 17. If anyone's ever done that, IEPs are trash.
They are.
And I did it.
I worked with autistic kids.
Oh, see, there you go.
Oh, I know the IEP.
Oh, it's brutal. So, and I did, I worked in an ED class. So ED or emotionally disturbed, these are the kids who put their hands on teachers and things of that nature.
Right.
And I guess one of my gifts is just being able to return a person to baseline. And so that just ends up being, put every kid in Mr. Blanchard's class. And so everyone would bitch in special ed. And I don't understand that. Like, it actually puts me at odds with people, because when I hear someone identify something that's a problem, all I do is identify a solution. But my last year there, what actually made me get out of special ed was like, I was like, oh my God, the reason why no one likes me because I just keep giving solutions. I'm actually pissing them off because they don't want a solution. They simply they just want to bitch. So I was like, we're doing different things.
Right.
And so I was like, so now I know. So now I'm aware. If I catch somebody who's not looking for a solution, then you just want to bitch. That's a completely different interaction.
What do you do in that circumstance? Because I feel like that is even more challenging. It's a lot of the times people that are closest to people who will use you as a bit of a dumpster to kind of, it's really, there's no,
this is what's going on.
It's just wanting to complain.
Yeah. Well, when someone bitches, a lot of times they're just removing the role that they played in whatever situation they're in. So we just try to figure out how'd you get there. And then, if something is a problem that they consider to be a problem, I don't like the way my boss looks at me, I don't like the way whatever the hell, well, then we need to address why it is that you don't like it.
Right.
And if it's something that's really wrong, then we create solutions.
Right.
But what ends up happening is, I guess when someone bitches, that's when they put something on a pedestal, and now there's an impedance between the pedestal. And they don't know how to just release their attachment to the pedestal. Right. So we had like a whole big thing over Louis C.K., right? And we had Stephanie Zambari and Moses. We had a really good podcast about Louis C.K. And I was just like, I don't understand what's going on. Women are so upset with Hollywood, but why aren't they just leaving Hollywood? Like, you don't understand. Like, you are doing everything you can to be in something that's terrible. The issue is your infatuation with Hollywood. Right. Men are going to be men, and I don't want to excuse them at all, but I'm like, you want to be here and you're mad that somebody is taking advantage of that. So why don't we just address why you think Hollywood makes you more valuable? Because that's a better conversation. Why you think Hollywood? Absolutely. But don't you think that women should have the same entry to it without having to overcome, like, that kind of puts men on a pedestal from my perspective. You're saying, should women be able to come into Hollywood? How about this? How it should be is whatever. I can't control how it should be, but I do know how people get taken advantage of. Oh yeah, totally. And so it's like, what ends up happening is we get pushed into these categories. So every time I hear about Harvey Weinstein, every time I hear about anything like that, I immediately go into like, how do I protect the person who's closest to me?
Right.
But that's not what people want to have the conversation on. People want to have the conversation about, what do I do about Harvey? And I'm like, well, Harvey exists. There will always be a Harvey. I rather, and not in a dismissive way, I just find it to be a more empowering conversation if I give you skills that Harvey never affects you. And then you teach it to everyone around you.
And it's interesting because one of the reasons Harveys exist is because they're rewarded. So it's a system. I was at a party after a lot of the Me Too stuff, and one of the guys who was a producer who he got Me Too'd-ish but was still working. And everybody knew who this guy was and what he had been accused of, and there were still women, models, going up to him and flirting with him and showing them their headshots from their phones. Yeah. And I was like, you guys know exactly. This is why these fucking guys exist.
Yeah. And so,
and you have to take, I'm not victim blaming the women at all, but there are certain, to act like that there aren't women who are taking advantage of these situations to try and forward themselves. I found it infantilizing again. It's like, okay, well, there were a lot of women who took advantage of, they had power too.
Yeah, they took advantage of the sexual tension.
And their own beauty and power.
Yeah,
and to act like that's not something that women do is crazy to me.
We're going to go even one step further. I think women should be allowed to do it.
Of course.
If you want to sleep your way to wherever you want to be, you ought to have the option.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, so how then, with that said, if a guy says, I only want to hire people that do whatever, and I'm like, and the woman says, I only want to work with places that I don't have to work hard and everybody works with me. Aren't I being accepting if I allow for that to exist? So then my conversation is to the woman that's like, no, I really care about acting and I don't want to be taken advantage of. So let's have that conversation.
Right.
So if the girl that says, hey, use me, just make me popular. And the guy's like, I'll make you popular. Let me use you. Shouldn't they be able to live off in their fucked off fantasy land?
They do.
They do.
They still are.